I knew the sound of an engine too well to mistake it for wind, especially that kind of engine, heavy, armoured, and not built for country roads. It was still over the ridge when the vibrations reached my boots. Low, predatory, not the type of noise you expect in the middle of the Idaho wilderness, especially when the only people who knew where I lived were supposed to be dead, incarcerated, or forgetting I existed. I set the axe down, quietly, listened. 2 motors in sync. SUVs maybe. Blacked out definitely. The kind that don't ask for directions. I reached the porch in 12 steps, unlocked the cabinet under the bench, and pulled out the shotgun. The cool metal steadied my pulse, not out of fear, but memory. I'd earned this quiet, bought it with blood and sleepless nights. It wasn't going to be taken from me by a convoy of tinted windows and bureaucratic arrogance. The first SUV appeared at the crest of the dirt path, like a shadow dragged into daylight. Behind it, another. They moved slow, not lost, not curious, predators in a land that wasn't theirs. I stepped forward, gun held low but visible. I wasn't aiming. Yet. The driver's door opened. Heels clicked on gravel. Sarah. Not the Sarah from high school. Not the Sarah who once worked at the post office. HOA, Sarah. Crimson pantsuit. Hair too perfect for wind. Smile too polite to be sincere. "You're hard to find," she said. Her voice was sugar, poured over nails. "I meant it that way," I replied. She walked closer, flanked by 2 men who looked like gym ads with anger issues. Black polos, black shades, visible pistols. Not cops, not friends. "You've violated multiple terms," Sarah said, holding out a thick manila envelope. "The association has expanded. Your property now falls within its boundaries. You've accrued fines, penalties. $32,000 worth." I didn't take the folder. "There is no HOA here. Not legally. We changed that." "No, you pretended to." A flicker of something dark moved behind her eyes. "Ignoring us won't make us disappear. You're trespassing. You'll regret this attitude." Then she turned and walked away, left the envelope at my feet. Her goons followed. The SUVs reversed down the path, slower than they'd come, like they were daring me to react. I picked up the envelope, opened it. $32,000 in fake fines. Photocopied threats dressed up as legal language. Logos that didn't match county records. But I knew intimidation when I saw it. This wasn't about money. This was about control, and I don't do leashes. Days later, they came at night. Not with cars this time, with blades. 2 tires slashed, not all 4. Just enough to trap me, not enough to make it look intentional. The cuts were clean, surgical. Didn't panic. I locked my doors, loaded the shotgun. The sheriff's office was useless, said what they always say. "No witnesses, no evidence, we'll look into it." Which means you're on your own. So I got ready. Trail cams, motion lights, alarm sensors. I layered my land with traps and lenses. I moved like a soldier. I thought like one too. And I waited. Then came the letter 1 evening. A single sheet of paper was nailed to my porch. Bold font. 3 words. "It's just business." I stared at it for 10 minutes, then I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it confirmed what I already knew. This wasn't about zoning, or fines, or bylaws. This was about fear and power and breaking people. But they came after the wrong man. I dialed Roy, the best lawyer I knew, the kind that once made an oil exec cry on a Zoom call. "They're escalating," I told him. "I'm not surprised," he said. "Bullies don't back down until you break their teeth." Then sharpen the paperwork. I'm going hunting. 2 nights later, a noise at the edge of the trees. I checked the cameras. 2 figures, both familiar, the muscle from Sarah's entourage. No cars this time, no folder. I stepped onto the porch with the shotgun resting against my shoulder. They didn't flinch. "Evening," one said. I didn't reply. "You've been busy," said the other. gathering stories, stirring the pot. Got folks all riled up. That a problem? He smiled. Only for you. They stepped closer. I clicked the safety off. Back off, I said. You're bluffing, he said. You shoot, and you'll go to jail. I raised the barrel. You step any closer, and you won't be walking. They paused, calculating. I saw it in their eyes. They expected fear, compliance. Not this. We'll be back, one muttered. Not if you like standing, I said. They left, but the message was clear. This wasn't a dispute. It was a war. The morning after the confrontation, I woke to a stillness that felt wrong. The kind of quiet that pressed on your chest, making it hard to breathe. The tension from last night still hung thick in the air, like the aftermath of a thunderstorm that hadn't fully passed. But the storm wasn't over yet. I could feel it in my bones. Something was coming. And when it did, I wasn't going to be caught off guard. I spent the morning watching the feeds from the trail cameras I had set up around the property. Each screen flickered, showing nothing but trees swaying in the breeze. But I knew better. I'd been in this game too long to believe that everything was quiet just because the cameras didn't show anything. The silence was deafening, and it felt like it was holding its breath, waiting for the next move. By mid-afternoon, my nerves were shot. The calm before the storm was always the worst part. My thoughts kept drifting back to Sarah and her crew. They weren't going to let me keep pushing back without making me pay for it. I knew it. Hell, they might already be on their way back, ready to finish what they started. I couldn't wait around for them to make their next move. I needed to take control. That's when I heard it. The sound of gravel crunching under heavy tires. Not the normal hum of a truck driving down the road, but the kind of noise that made my blood run cold. The kind of sound that meant something was coming. Something bad. I moved toward the window, my heart hammering in my chest. Through the trees I saw them, 2 of Sarah's men. The first one was tall, broad-shouldered, with a face that looked like it was carved out of stone, the kind of guy who was always used to getting what he wanted. The second was smaller, but just as dangerous. His eyes were sharp, scanning the cabin like a predator on the hunt. They weren't here to check in on me, that was for sure. No, they'd come with one purpose in mind: to remind me who was in charge. I didn't waste any time. I grabbed the shotgun leaning against the wall by the door. The cold metal felt solid in my hands, grounding me. They were getting too comfortable. Too cocky. They thought they could waltz in here, throw their weight around, and I'd just fold. But that wasn't who I was, and it sure as hell wasn't who I was going to be. I crept to the back door, careful not to make a sound. My pulse was a drumbeat in my ears, the shotgun heavy in my hands. They didn't deserve the luxury of me waiting around for them to do anything. I was going to meet them head on. The door creaked as I stepped outside. The moment the cool air hit my skin, I felt the tension melt a little. It was a feeling of inevitability. The fight was here, whether I was ready or not, and I was ready. I stepped into the open, the shotgun hanging by my side. I didn't need to aim it at them yet, but it was there. They knew it. I knew it. This wasn't a friendly visit. The taller man was the first to speak. He'd seen me long before I had the chance to speak, and his voice had that edge to it, like he was trying to be calm, but was really just holding on to his control by a thread. "You made a mistake, you know that?" he said, the words dripping with condescension. His partner stayed silent, just watching, waiting for the inevitable confrontation. I didn't blink, didn't flinch. I wasn't about to let them dictate the pace. "No," I said, my voice steady, despite the adrenaline pumping through my veins. "You did. You thought I'd be an easy target. You thought I'd roll over. But that was your mistake." The man's smirk faltered just for a second, but he quickly recovered. The air between us crackled with tension. "Listen, this doesn't have to get ugly," he said, his eyes narrowing like he was sizing me up. "Sarah's willing to make a deal. If you play along, you can keep your little piece of paradise. All you have to do is stop this nonsense. Walk away, and we can all move on. I couldn't believe it. After all that had happened, after everything, they'd put me through. They thought they could just show up and offer me a deal, like I was some cornered animal looking for a way out. I laughed. It was a harsh, bitter sound. A deal? I shook my head slowly. I don't make deals with people like you. Not after everything you've done. I'm not backing down. So take your offer and leave. The man's eyes darkened, and I saw the shift. He wasn't used to being rejected, not like this. But I wasn't about to give him the satisfaction of making me second-guess myself. The second man finally spoke up, trying to smooth over the growing tension. You don't want to make this harder than it has to be. You really don't. Sarah doesn't. Take kindly to people who waste her time. I wasn't intimidated by his words. I wasn't going to bend to threats. Not anymore. I had made my stand, and I wasn't going to let them walk all over me. I didn't waste anyone's time, I said, stepping closer, the shotgun still hanging loosely by my side. You came here to intimidate me. You came here because you thought you could. But now you're going to learn that I don't fold under pressure. The taller man's fingers twitched toward the side of his waistband, where his gun was holstered. I noticed the movement in an instant. My own hand twitched toward the shotgun. We were both waiting for the other to make the first move. For a second, it felt like time stood still. The air was thick, heavy with the threat of violence. I knew I had to make a choice, push forward or back off, and there was no backing off. I'm not afraid of you, I said, my voice cold, sharp. And I'm not afraid to defend myself. You need to leave. The man hesitated. I could see him considering his options, his hand still hovering near his gun. And then, almost as if something clicked in his mind, he backed off, slowly, like he was calculating the situation in his head. He exchanged a look with his partner, who was now visibly tense, but they didn't escalate. Not yet. Not today. You're making a mistake, the first man finally muttered, his words bitter, tinged with something like disbelief. This isn't over. We'll be back. And next time, you won't be so lucky. I didn't say anything in return. I didn't need to. I just watched as they walked back to their truck, their steps reluctant but sure. The engine roared to life, and the tires kicked up a cloud of dust as they sped away. I stood there, my shotgun still in my hands, my heart still pounding in my chest. It wasn't over, not by a long shot. But for the first time, I felt like I had the upper hand. I had stood my ground, stared them down, and didn't flinch. I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. I was fighting for something bigger, for a community that had been suffocated by fear for far too long. I knew they'd be back. They'd come harder next time, no doubt. But they didn't realize something important. I wasn't alone. The town had started to wake up. People were starting to stand with me. And Sarah? She'd soon learn that trying to push me out of my own land wasn't a game she could win. As the dust settled and the sound of their truck faded into the distance, I turned back inside. The storm was far from over, but this time I was ready for it. The truck's engine faded, but the tension in the air didn't. I stood there, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on me, the shotgun still in my hands, the taste of defiance lingering on my tongue. The silence that followed was almost unbearable, a stillness that felt too heavy, too quiet. My eyes remained fixed on the road as the dust settled, the sound of their tires just a distant memory now. But I knew, deep down, that it wasn't over, not by a long shot. They had retreated for now, but that retreat was just a temporary pause. I had no illusions about that. The war wasn't fought in a single battle. It was a series of moves and counter-moves, and Sarah had just made hers. She'd sent her men to test me, to rattle me, to see if I'd break, and I hadn't. But now I knew what I was up against. The wind picked up again, carrying with it a strange, foreboding chill, like a warning. I could almost feel the storm gathering on the horizon, its fury still waiting to be unleashed. I couldn't wait around for them to make their next move. I needed to be ahead of it, to think like them, strategize. And I had no idea what they were planning. But I knew one thing for sure. It wasn't going to be pretty. I turned to go back inside, my eyes scanning every shadow, every movement in the trees, as though the world itself might betray me. I had always been a step ahead before, always kept my eyes wide open. But this time was different. I could feel it in my gut. Just as I reached the door, I heard a crack of twigs snapping behind me. I spun around, the hair on the back of my neck standing on end. My heart skipped a beat. But it wasn't Sarah's men. It wasn't anyone I was expecting. A figure stepped out from the woods, her silhouette sharp against the fading light. My pulse surged, my body instinctively tensing. For a fight, a confrontation. "Sarah's not the only one who plays dirty," she said, her voice low, gravelly. The words were sharp, cutting through the air like a blade. I recognized her, or at least I thought I did. The woman from the bar, the one who had warned me, the one who'd given me that cryptic look that had sent chills down my spine the first time we'd met. She was the last person I expected to show up at my doorstep. "What do you want?" I demanded, the shotgun tightening in my grip, but I wasn't pointing it at her. Not yet. I didn't know if I could trust her, but I sure as hell wasn't going to give her a free pass. She stepped closer, her boots crunching over the dry leaves. "I'm here to make sure you're still alive for the real game," she said, a twisted smile playing at the corner of her lips. "You've been playing checkers. Sarah's been playing chess." My stomach tightened. I didn't like where this was going. "The game's changing," she continued, "and you're not ready for it." Before I could say anything, before I could process her words, a sharp crack split the air, a gunshot. My heart stopped. Time seemed to slow. The woman's expression shifted, an unreadable flicker in her eyes, and in the same breath, she disappeared back into the shadows, vanishing without a trace. I barely caught a glimpse of her retreating form as I turned toward the sound, my blood running cold. My instincts screamed at me to move, to react, but I couldn't make myself do anything. Another shot rang out. This time the impact wasn't in the distance. It was close, too close. I felt it. Hot, searing pain erupting through my side. The world spun as I staggered back, my breath catching in my throat, a rush of warmth flooding beneath my shirt. I gritted my teeth against the pain, forcing myself to stay upright. I reached for the wound, the shock of the impact still rippling through my body. But I didn't have time to feel sorry for myself. No, I had to survive. I had to fight. As the world swam in and out of focus, I heard footsteps approaching, fast, heavy. A voice called out, familiar but twisted with venom. "Didn't think it'd be this easy, did you?" Sarah. She stepped into view, standing in the doorway like she owned the place, a smug smile spreading across her face. Her gun was still in her hand, pointed directly at me. But there was something different about her now. The fearlessness I'd seen before was gone, replaced by something colder, darker. "You thought you could stand against me, huh?" she said, her voice low and almost sympathetic. "I gave you a chance. I told you to walk away. But you didn't listen." I clenched my jaw, blood trickling, down my side, and despite everything, I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of calm washing over me. This was it. The final confrontation. There was no turning back now. I didn't walk away because I'm not a coward, I spat, glaring at her, trying to ignore the pain in my side. "You'll regret this," she raised an eyebrow. "Oh, I think I'll be the one doing the regretting." Her eyes glinted with something like amusement, but there was a darkness there now, a shift that made my blood run cold. "I didn't come for this," she said, taking a step closer, the gun now level with my chest. "I didn't come to kill you, not yet, but I will." Then she lowered the weapon. At least I thought I would. I couldn't make sense of her sudden change in demeanor. What the hell was going on? And that's when I saw it. The figure behind her. The same woman from earlier. She emerged from the shadows, but this time her face was cold, calculating. She wasn't here to warn me. She wasn't on anyone's side. She was working with Sarah. No, I whispered, realizing too late what had happened. This wasn't a fight. This wasn't even a battle. It was a setup. I was the pawn. The woman had played me. Before I could make sense of it all, the final twist slammed into my chest. The woman's gun clicked in my ear, and then nothing. The world went dark, and that was the last thing I ever saw.